All right, who's out there? Can you hear me? Trying to get this a little more dialed in. Uh, if you're there, you can start typing questions, and I'm just going to start talking in a second. I'm going to make sure everything's working. Yes. All right, Cameron. Thank you. I'm going to have to lean forward and read questions as we go. It's nice and clear. All right. I'm also hoping that some drums in here won't be too distorted. If I play, you can let me know this too. So hopefully that there's some clarity with that. All right, we got 4 people. Awesome, Adam. All right. What's up, y'all? How you doing? All right, so I got a question from some people last week, or one person I should say in particular, and it really made me think because it kind of struck a nerve with me about playing simple, and this person, I don't remember who it was, but was talking about listening back to themselves and finding what they were playing was boring, and it sounded like kind of being insecure because there wasn't a bunch of chops going on, and it was like unimpressive. Um, so it got me thinking, and my first thought on that was I've never ever heard a singer turn around to a drummer in my whole career and say, "You're not playing over me enough. You're not busy enough. You're not, like it's not." I mean, if you're playing in a pop situation and you have a singer, 9 times out of 10, they don't want you stepping on them. You're not stepping on me enough. Not once in my 25-year career have I ever heard someone say that to me. Okay. um, so I think that's the most important thing. It's okay to play simple and be confident about playing simply. That's the whole point, right? We're there to support. Of course, there are situations, you know, in whatever bands where it's appropriate to play more, and and maybe sometimes you're hired, or maybe there's a specific song or whatever where you play more notes, right? But 9 times out of 10, you're not there to be showing off your chops, or on a record showing off your chops. You're there to support the music. Right. Exactly. Exactly, Adam. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. That's what we do, you know? Like, there is a culture out there of playing busy, impressing people, and that's okay. That's okay in a certain context, right? But I've created a career off not doing that. And I got to say, most of my friends, and I got a lot of working LA drummer friends, that's not what they do. And that's not what they're hired to do. They're not being hired to be uh, impressive, right? The impressive part is playing solid, playing simple, supporting the music, supporting the singer, uh, making sure the band is comfortable, making sure you're playing at a great volume for someone to mix you in front of house, things like that. That's your gig, right? Um, so yeah, does anybody have any questions so far? All 7 of us. Um, that's my spiel. I have another part to this, and I'm blanking at the moment. So if there's a question, please hit me. It'll stir my brain. Um, oh, right. So the other thing I was thinking. Thank you, John. I got to bring my reading glasses out here. Maybe I can see the comments from here, Adam. Not burying it. Get a better recording, right? All awesome customers are going to get these. Adam, okay. Adam, you're having trouble playing with the same confidence, having the beater come off the head. All right. Well, not this. This is probably a little more of an in-depth lesson that I would have to have with you, but um, I'll tell you one thing I did when I made the conscious decision that I wanted to do this. I was actually on a tour. I was starting a tour, um, and I just made a decision that like this is something that I was going to focus on, and I could do it during gigs. I think the biggest thing that you need to know is like putting your foot the right spot on the pedal so the beater comes back naturally and you're not mentally making it come back, right? It's just like playing with the stick, right? You can either play into the drum or let the rebound happen. And the same thing is going to happen on your kick drum pedal, right? If you put your foot on the right spot of the pedal, it's going to come back. Now, maybe it feels uncomfortable to you, um, because you're not used to it. But as long as your foot's in the right place, it's going to start to happen naturally. And hopefully you're not having weird tension in your leg or anything like that. But it should just happen naturally. It may take some getting used to because you haven't done it for X amount of time that you've been playing. But you know, let me know if that helps. John, what's my opinion about ribbon microphones? I like ribbon microphones for specific purposes. Uh, so I have two different sets. I have a set of Coles 4038s that I usually use for my rooms. I have a very small room. It could be kind of bright in here, and it's helpful because the room is so small. The ribbons help dampen down the cymbal tone bouncing around the room, right? So that's super helpful. Those Coles are really dark. Coles are also great mono overhead for getting, the Beatley thing, especially with some compression on there, some LA2A. That's a really great sound. So I love ribbons for those. And then my main overheads, which you can't quite see in this shot, are Biodynamic M160s, which are also really excellent, not expensive microphones. Um, and they're just great, because again, they're not too bright. Um, of course they can get bright, you can add EQ, but I love ribbons for those certain purposes. I also really love an old RCA mic to get like, a crunchy tube thing going on. One of these days I'm going to get that. My favorite snare. Okay. It's a tough question because that's like, it depends on what I'm going for. So, but I have a couple. One is actually my Black Beauty copy. It's the Drum Paradise. It's the Chris Hewer Drum Paradise snare, also known as the Hitmaker. It's a 6.5 by 14. That's really my go-to snare. And it works, 9 times out of 10 for me for a lot of things. Of course, it doesn't work for everything, but that's a really great go-to snare. Um, and I've said this before. If I actually had a 80s Tama bell brass, like the real deal, I think that would for sure be my favorite snare. So I will say though, I keep talking about this snare and I keep using it, but I have this new carbon fiber DW. This is a 5. I'm really digging this drum. I actually don't own it yet. It's on loan, but it's like dark in a good way. It's just got a really great tone. I really love it. So right now, this is my favorite snare. But in general, that Chris Hewer Black Beauty. Cameron, all right. You find yourself in a jam context somewhere in town with other musicians where you do play showy. You ever completely removed yourself? Um, do I find myself where I do play showy? No. Uh, I would say I've removed myself mentally from it. I do play like improvised, you know, gigs here and there sometimes. There's this guy, this really great guitar player named Josh Gooch, and he has an improvised thing. But to me, my yeah, my I just don't do it. I mean, first of all, I'm not impressive like that. I have some chops, but I'm not playing is not impressive. Especially geez in the gospel chop world, like I can't hang with that. So, I mean, I don't worry about it. I don't try to do it. My whole point of this whole thing is like, can I express myself? All right, can I get out through my limbs what what I want to happen, right? So I do practice a certain amount of chops that I feel is important for me to get out, and in the context that I play in, if I need to go for something, I I wanna make sure my facility is there to get it out, right? Um, I guess it's a relative scale of what is impressive chops wise, but no, it's like mentally, I'm not ever worried about it. Um, were there times I was? Yes, of course, for a long time as a younger player, but I don't worry about it anymore. It doesn't bother me. I'm worried about, can I improvise and interact in the way that I need uh, to be happy, you know? Do you typically for monitor mix when doing sessions recording other artists? Anything particular raising the bass or giving the vibe? I think it depends on what I'm recording and what it is. So in a live recording situation, which full band tracking, which doesn't happen that often anymore, but definitely click is prominent because that's what we're going for. Or if there's like some kind of sequence or something, I need that to be prominent in my headphone mix. Um, uh, yes, of course, bass to make sure I'm not only locking in with the bass, but pattern wise, we're doing similar things, so that thing is prominent. Usually, 9 times out of 10, singers will be lower in my mix. I want to hear the melody. I want to hear the expression of the singer, but time wise, I don't want to be influenced by them. If we're tracking to a click, I don't want to be pulled if they want to wave around. I want to be the solid one. So I want them in there, but lower. Um, and then anything else, I just prioritize by what's the most important thing in the track, and usually rhythmic things are the most important things to be locking into and listening to, in a general sense for a headphone mix for me. About to buy my first recording setup. I'm leaning towards 3 or 4 ribbons only. Should I get condensers and dynamics too, or can I get away with? Hey, John. So, I mean, I don't know what you're typically recording. Um, Maybe you can just throw something out there like that. What kind of sounds are you getting? Um, I definitely think a mixture helps. Maybe 2 ribbons and two condensers. You know what I mean? Would be a good idea, but it really depends on kind of what your vibes are. What percentage do I work with clicks as opposed to pre-recorded without clicks? I mean, 90%, 95% is something that's with a click. I will say that often, especially if I'm tracking early in the recording process, if I'm tracking early in the recording process, it might be just an acoustic guitar and a vocal, and then, you know, it's tracked to a click, but it moves a bit more. And I'm definitely locking on the click as much as I can. You know what I'm saying? Um, Yeah, but, uh, and then occasionally, once in a long while, I'll get something that's not done to a click, and that's a challenge to play along with it, but hopefully it's not egregious, and at least it has some kind of pocket or feel that you can naturally feel a bit, you know? Yeah, the 30ths. I mean, what I can say about that is the question is about is the GOP doing something different in their 30th anniversaries? The original one I got, which was I think it was 2012, I bought it somewhere around there. It is different, and there's a lathing thing that's different, and frankly, I like that one more. Um, but I don't. I to my in my the knowledge that I have, I don't think it's changed. I think they changed it one time, but I don't know if it's a recent thing. Um, I don't know. But the original one I got way back then is a little more like a like a funky old K, and it's a really great thing. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, Cameron, I see your question. Play something and talk about a concept. Cool. Let me look at a couple more questions, then maybe I'll come back to that. Yeah, Adam. Yes. Let me talk to that about a little bit. Um, stuff like this. I would love to do like a private lesson with you. Um, let me touch on that a little. But maybe I can weave that into like what Cameron's asking is to play a little. Okay. Let me answer John's question here first. Okay. All right. So the Lanois Brian Blade thing. Yes. Paracols, great idea for that kind of thing. Sounds like a more open sound, uh, uh, you know, roomy, maybe slightly darker. Maybe it sounds like you're not probably not hitting as hard. Um, in that case, yeah, a set of like Coles ribbons and even a 57 and some kind of nice bass drum mic is going to get you a long way for getting that sound that you're talking about in particular, which is great. So let me say this: if anybody wants to throw some, tip, chat, coffee money at me for doing this, that would be killer. I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to go back to Cameron's question here. I'm going to play a little, and I'm going to try to tie in what Adam's talking about, um, as far as playing ahead and behind. Uh, and something I'm working on. Actually, I don't know if those tie in to what I'm doing. Something I'm working on. Yes. Okay. Okay. So what I'm working on, I'm still, my left hand is endless. Let me move this rack down. Okay, my left hand is an endless quest. Thank you. Thanks, Adam. My left hand is an endless quest of reforming. Okay, so one thing I'm working on is I'm really trying to strengthen this muscle in my left hand, my thumb. I'm gradually, for a long time I was playing backbeats like pretty flat. I'm gradually turning my hand over just a hair to make sure my fingers are more engaged uh, at any moment's notice and just have a better touch. You know, um, Almost like I would have with traditional grip. Right. Okay. So I'm just trying to be able to like have this a nice light touch, but and then be able to go to a backbeat, in the same time. All right. So that's one thing that I'm working on. Another thing is, just lining up, making sure my doubles are lined up, my left hand. things like that. And I'm playing like, busy, more rudimental patterns, slower, making sure my kick drum and my left hand are really just locked. Um, that's just something that like, I really want to be able to play those slow patterns and make them feel good and groove, whatever, have everything lined up, perfectly. Um, Let me check out a couple of these questions. Cameron, I'm still going to get back to you. Ah! Which drummer do I think worked better in Pearl Jam? I love that question. Um, Dave Cruson, man. Where's his name? Dave Cruson on 10, right? Um, I love Matt Cameron. I love that guy as a player. I love him. I love him more in Soundgarden because I just think he sounds more like him, right? Uh, of course, he sounds great in Pearl Jam. Abraziz, great drummer, but I like the Dave Cruson thing on 10. I mean, it's got a little too much. Abraziz was a little too much for me, but then it's your question. Okay. Yes, I use Glenn Johns for specific things. A certain type of recording I'm asked to do. Yes, I use Glenn Johns. It's super effective. I love how Glenn's Johns technique sounds. But it's definitely for more, old school things where I can get away with that sound. Um, because that's obviously more of like mix yourself. The engineer is really defined. The drums are pretty defined in that style. Again, if anybody wants to leave some coffee money, super chat, whatever down there, that would be great. Um, but yeah, the Glenn Johns thing, I love that. I love that, especially if you just have a minimal mic setup. It's incredibly effective. Also, the classic thing, what you're supposed to do is only pan them 50-50. Um, that's the way Glenn Johns does it. But if you go, 100 out to the side, it almost sounds like, there's various variable sounds in it. So I love the Glenn Johns method. I think it's super effective. Of course, it's limiting because you have less choices to EQ later. So it really depends on the type of track that you're recording. First thing to troubleshoot if you're not getting low end in the overheads. Um, well, typically I'm trying not to get a lot of low end in my overheads. Uh, Typically, especially with I have mine are set up in spaced pair. Um, I'm really trying to define those as, you know, uh, I feel like the low end, in terms of my toms, is coming from the close mics, right? Low end coming from the close mics, and my overheads are really they're there to grab the cymbal sounds, and of course they're getting attack from the toms, and they are filling out the tom tones. But I don't really think of getting low end in my overheads. What would I check? I would check phase. Sounds like a phase could be a phase issue. Secondly, I would check, are you doing, are you doing XY? Are you doing space pair? And 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 what are you really going for in there? What are you trying to get out of your overheads? Then I would say mic choices. If you're using pencil mics, probably not the best thing for low end, right? Um, those would be my first thoughts on that. Yes, that is a 12 gauge mic on the side of the snare. Right there. Right there. I was doing a track last night, and so I was saying I'm really liking this DW carbon fiber snare. I really love it. It's very dry though. And so I was working with a producer, and they weren't able to be on the phone at the time, or sorry, available to chat or whatever. So I thought the snare might be a little dry and it may need more to have more life. So I threw this up just in case we needed to like, do something else with it. So yes, 12 gauge Omni mic side snare. It really worked. And, and oddly enough, the producer commented and he said, "Oh, the first MP3 you had sent me, I wasn't in love with the snare sound, but whatever you did later, I like it." And that was adding this. So works great there. Thank you for the tip. Adam, do you ever record with tom toms wide open, no muffling? Yes. If so, do you gate or just edit out in between segments? I do both. I do both. Depends on the type of track. If it's a super clean pop track, I will just take them out. I'll just do what you're talking about. Just take out that bleed. I do use gates. I like those slate gates. They seem to work really well. Um, and then another thing I did, and I was actually trying to film it, and it's really tough to film like tuning videos and stuff. I really find it a pain in the ass. But I actually put a little bit of cotton balls in my toms. Um, so there's about 8 or 10 cotton balls now in my rack tom and in my floor tom, and that helps with the bleed. But the funny thing is, and this is what I always suspected, is most of the bleed comes from the top head. You have a mic and it's on the top head. That's where the bleed's coming from, not so much from the bottom head. But I do record with wide open toms if the track, if that's the thing. And but right, all right. So we're talking about two things here. If my toms are wide open, then I'm going for a wide open sound, and the bleed is probably acceptable, right? Probably. Uh, but if you want a big wide open tom thing and you don't want the bleed, then yes, cut them. I always think it's the easiest thing. And then, gates are great too, but cutting it does the job better. Christian, any special processing? Um, no, just EQ and compression. A little bit of I don't know if I compressed it. Again, I was, this particular band I was recording for last night, the guy in the band is also a great producer and mixer. So with him, I was just trying to kind of leave it open. You know what I mean? Like for him to be able to mess with. Uh, but I think typically with this kind of thing, like if you compress, just to bring it out, what I mean? The whole point of miking a shell would be to bring out an effect or a sonic element of the snare. So, uh, you know, compressing it can help bring that out more. You know, rack toms. Who needs rack toms? What's the point? Kick, snare, hat, and a floor tom. What mics did I buy when I first started my studio? A 57. I mean that actually seriously. Mic evolution. I don't remember that much. It definitely got, a 57 and a bass drum mic, which my bass drum mic was a D12. That was the first one I got. AKG D12. Good bass drum mic, a 57, and then I got large diaphragms. I got some large diaphragm mics because thank you for the tip, Christian, appreciate that. Anyone else on here getting good information? If you want to leave me some coffee money, little tip, that would be great. If you feel I'm helping you out. I think live diaphragm mics, if you're starting out, can be good, along with a 57 and a 50 and a kick drum mic, whatever it is, D12, Beta 52, always, the kind of go-to kick drum mics. Those are super great. And then some kind of cheap large diaphragm, because you can use them as overheads. You could use them as tom mics. You can use them as room mics. Like they're very versatile mics, right? So if you have a pretty minimal setup and you're starting out and you just want to get good sounds, go for like a medium priced, large diaphragm mic. I know Rode, Rode, they seem to make good cheap microphones. I know blanking Warm Audio, same thing. They're making great, mid-level microphones, and those are good things to start with. Oh boy. All right, Jeff. Here we go. You owe me a tip for this one, buddy. Yes. Right. Yeah, the mics that Adam just said are great for beginning, starting out. All right. So Jeff, help me out here, bud. You have one M160 and a pair of 414s. Give me a little more, or are these all you just have one of each? Oh wait. Okay, 1 414. Here's our waiting beat. One of each. Okay. You guys know the James Gadsden, the Bill Withers tune, Kissin' My Love? That James Gadsden groove on Kissin' My Love? Ridiculous. It's like 5 minutes and he keeps this thing going. All right, I digress. How would I mic a hit with each of these? Hang on. Okay. This is how I would do it, Jeff. I would 52 on the kick, 57 on the snare. And then I think you could interchange the 414 or the M160 as an overhead or a room. Okay. And depending on vibe, the M160 as a mono overhead would probably be great because it'd be kind of dry, and also because of the ribbon context of it, it would be a little darker, right? The 414, obviously, you can do a lot of that with the 414 because you have different patterns, figure eight, cardioid, supercardioid, omni, right? And so that's a super effective overhead too, depending on the sound that you want. Again, either could be the 414 would be great in the room because you could put it in figure eight. If the kit's facing the way it is, my kit is, and you put the 414 sideways and you put it in figure eight, then you're capturing, almost like a fake stereo room sound, right? So depending on what you're going for, that seems like a good option. M160, 414, and figure eight out front. What do you think? What do you think about that? Give me an answer. I will do that, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, my PayPal. I'll just, I'll throw my PayPal out there. I'll throw it on there. Sorry, Jeff. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. But what do you think of the? Oh, yes, thank you. Appreciate that. What do you think of the answer? Wait, I got to get closer to reading this. Oh yeah, 414 over the right shoulder. Yes, a great picture. That's a great picture sound. Yep. And also, you can mess with the pattern, mic pattern with it over your shoulder too, right? But But those 4 mics are super effective. I'm sure you're getting some great sounds from that, you know? Hang on, I'm coming around. So my PayPal would be... Oh. That would be that. Thanks. All right, back to questions. Love the answer. All right, great. Best way to contact you about a private lesson. Okay, well, I'll say this. Anybody can hit me on my website, which is blaircinta.com. And I've cleaned it up a bit. So you can, it's one side's hiring me for recording, which I'm assuming most of you are not here for that. And the other would be for lessons. And that's pretty clear. So go to my website, blaircinta.com, hit me up there. And I would love it if anybody on here signed up for my mailing list. It's my mailing list. I'm really sending you stories about, like, most of it is stories about recording sessions I've done. Um, you know, a lot of it's advice. There's a bunch of free lessons, recording things in the mailing list that come, and they come about once a week. It's not a crazy inundated thing. And then, I'm also selling my introduction to recording course, which is for sale. It's $100. It's 2 hours of recording lessons. Takes you from 1 mic, 2 mics, 3 mics, 4 mics, and 2 different Beatle miking setups, 3 mics and 6 mics. And that's taken from the Recording the Beatles book. These are all sound examples, video examples, and it's really good. So if people don't know about that, my introduction to recording course is really good for a lot of this stuff. But yeah, hit me through my website, blaircinta.com, for lessons, and please sign up for the mailing list. Thank you, Jeff. Corey. Sup, dude? How are you? I miss you too, man. No Drumhead hang this year, unfortunately. There's usually a Drumhead magazine. If anybody doesn't know Corey Mansky, he writes for Drumhead, and he's also a rad drummer. But we see each other there once a year. Oh, Casey, if I could talk about taking a lesson with Dave Elitch, you want me to talk shit about Dave Elitch online live? I've taken 2 lessons with Dave. Dave is my homie. Dave is an incredible teacher. As most of you probably know. I'll just tell you what I worked on with Dave. One, like a lesson with, about my left hand with him. And I've been working, that was years ago, 3, 4 years ago now. And I've, those principles that he had me work on were important for that. And the other thing that I touched on with Dave was just balance and posture, and a lot of the stuff that he talks about in general. And, just sitting right so you flow, right? This is his whole thing. This is like secondhand reiteration of what Dave talks about. And just, you know, as long as you're comfortable, then you should be able to get your stuff out, right? And, what he made me realize is I hold a lot of different tension in different parts of my body, namely my right leg, and I also tend to lean. So, part of my frustration, throughout some of my time playing has been not being totally balanced. And it's something that, Dave opened my mind up to, and something I'm still working on, but it's super helpful. So hopefully that helps you, Casey. Any more thoughts on that? Adam, all right. Thank you, Adam. Thanks for being around. Well, shit. That sucks, Cameron. Hang on. Maybe I can put a link up, but dang. That's a drag. But that was through my website. I'm coming around here again. Hang on. Hang on, I'll be right there. Can you hear me? Trying to get MailChimp linked up with things can be a pain in the ass. All right. Hello. Thank you, John. Appreciate that, man. Let me look at this mailing list thing here. What's going on with it? Real quick. Because there's a pop-up that's supposed to come up on there. Cameron. Yep, when I filled out my info on the pop-up site, it said there was an error. Shit. All right. Well. That's a drag. Well, I'll get that fixed. You know what we could do? You could just email me here, Adam, and I will add you when I get it fixed. Yeah, just email you. Just throw me your email address there if anybody else wants to. Just email me there, and then I'll add you to the mailing list. All right, I think I'm going to wrap up. Last minute questions. Anybody have a last minute question before I bail here? No, this is a fun one. No, looks like we're good. Looks like we're good. All right. Oh, do you have any room treatment tips? Room treatment tips? Beet seed. Okay, hit me quick. Room treatment tips. I don't have a lot of room treatment tips. As you can see back there, I have, I built some baffles. My floor in this room is cement. So I just have area rugs in here, and I have a ton of drums in here. Drums are good bafflers. Wait, that's the wrong way to go. No, sorry. All right, I can't turn my computer around. No, I don't have many tips on that. Just whatever you're going for. If you want it super dead, you just got to add more rugs on the floor and build some decent baffles. These have like fiberglass in them, or the insulation fiberglass, and then it's a wood panel that I bought, and I just put black material over it so they look good. Ceiling treatment. I have no treatment on my ceiling. That's my ceiling. Absolutely none. So I can't help you out with that. Chris, hey dude, how are you? Oh, thank you, Chris. Yes, my Patreon. Wow, that is awesome. Yeah. So there's about 70 videos up on my Patreon. Patreon is about $10 a month, and you get access to all that stuff. 70 different videos on recording. But thank you, Chris. That's huge, man. I have a rattle in my rack tom, and I have the feeling that it has to do with the bearing edge that is not exactly flat. Any experience with that? So the head is. It sounds like the head is buzzing, or the drum, or there's like a metallic rattle. Is it the head or the something on the drum vibrating? Can you tell me that? Beet seed. What was your drum and mic setup for when you used the mill? Oh boy, still on. It was basically this setup. I mean, more or less. The Lizzie thing. So if anybody doesn't know, all right, let me finish this question from Beat Seed. Yes, is the head. Okay, so yeah, your bearing edge could be out of round, and yes, have I had that problem? Yes. Obviously, the best thing to do is get it fixed if there's somebody in your area that does that. Thank you, Benny's 14. I appreciate that, man. Otherwise, You just got to mess with the head and tuning it. So the side that has the crappy part, you probably have to tighten that down a little more and try to even out the pitch. But this, I think the same basic principle applies. You want to try to even out the pitch of the drum, no matter what's happening on there. And in fact, I just put a new head on my floor tom the other day, and it was a pain in the ass. And I got so frustrated, I left it overnight. And when I came back in the morning, I made a few tweaks, and then all of a sudden, it started to work the way I wanted it to. So, um, you know, that helped. Richard says felt around the spring and the lugs, right? But he's saying it's the head. So, yes, felt in the springs could help. And the room mic is no problem by the. Yeah, it sounds like the head. Yeah, yeah. Try to get it in tune, and this is where tape on the head can help. So take out those overtones on the side that's messed up. A little bit of tape can sometimes kill those overtones. Do that that rattle thing. Even if you want the top of that. So Esteban. Oh, okay. So I think one and and this the basic setup was this, what I have here, which is mono overhead, which at that time would have been a 414. My M160s and spaced pair there. I was probably using my 65 Ludwig drums, my club dates, which are 12, 14, 20. I think that's probably mainly what I used on there. And that was definitely darker sounds. I probably veered toward my Coles for the overdubs, the percussion overdubs. And definitely, definitely the more vintagey vibe for drums, but the recording and let's see. Yeah, probably this kick drum miking setup also, which is, can't see it. Try to get this here. My FET on the outside, and then probably had this ATM 125 on the inside. Definitely wasn't this DW kick drum though. So does that help, Esteban? Yeah, the club date kits are rule. Oh, Kristen says turned out he had an issue with a mic. Right. What was your first go-to plugin when mixing drums? Oh boy. I have no idea, because when I started doing this stuff, it was the early 2000s. So whatever plugin that was, it was probably a go-to free Pro Tools plugin. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't something I bought. It was just something that came, yeah, I can't even think back that far when I don't know what it would have been. Something free for sure. If you're just getting into it and you need to start mixing, I wouldn't worry too much about what the plugin is. I would just start learning frequencies and improving the sound that you have. Oh, first thing I put on a channel. First thing I do is I put some the trim plugin on to be able to check phase when I go listen. That's the first thing I do. Second thing is some kind of EQ, some kind of EQ plugin, whatever that is. I EQ before I do anything. Only compress if I need to. But yeah, it's definitely EQ. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's EQ, a gate if needed in my chain, only if needed, and then a compression, only if needed. But 9 times out of 10, it's EQ, All right. All right. I'm going to wrap it up here, y'all. I appreciate the tips. If anybody else just wants to leave something real quick, that would be rad. This was a fun one. I like this. This is a super informative one. All right. I'm trying to get more regular with this. Again, hi, Mark. No. Tunnels can be good for bleed for sure. On outside kick, especially if you want to put your kick drum back farther from your head for a different sound. But I found with my FET, if I really just low pass it, heavily, then I don't have to worry about the bleed so much. But it just depends on placement, and a tunnel can be super helpful in that thing. In fact, I should cover that. That's a great topic for the Patreon. Tunneling your kick drum. I've never done that. And experiment with that. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. All right, Beat Seed, right on. All right, y'all. Thanks. Again, if I guess my pop-up is messed up on my website, which I want to fix. But I would love it if any and all of you sign up for my mailing list and just email me there with your email, and I'll add you since it's not working. Really appreciate it, y'all. Take it easy. I'll probably see you next week. All right. Bye.